Thank you for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. The next keynote speech title is Connecting the World and Japan, and the president of the Nikko Asset Management, Ms. Stefanie will be giving a presentation.
The stage is yours.
So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my views today. Today we've heard a lot about how international firms can access Japan and why this makes sense for them. In my speech today, I would like to look at this issue the other way around. In other words, how can Japanese companies benefit from international players coming to Japan? And is there an opportunity for them to enhance their business by partnering with such international players? And how can this subsequently lift up the entire asset management industry in Japan? So first, a comment on Asset Management Nation. Asset Management Nation is a very ambitious project, and it's one that's been powerfully executed so far. I believe that the reason for that is because it was not rolled out in isolation. Many different factors were considered by the government. And then other factors were added to that, creating a real seismic shift. So strong existing initiatives were taken into consideration, like the Corporate Governance Code, the Stewardship Code, which was twice revised, and they were carefully assessed. And these were then reinforced by an overhaul of the Japan Stock Exchange. And the government then created the ambitious doubling of asset-based income plan, aimed at drawing money out of savings into the capital markets. And of course, the star of that show was the new NISA, which had an immediate and immense impact. And you can see that from the numbers on the right-hand side of the slide. And only then, in December of last year, did the government launch the policy to make Japan a leading asset management center, making us a go-to country for international firms. So if we are becoming an attractive country for international asset managers, what are these initiatives doing for companies headquartered in Japan, like mine? Well, it gives us a truly unique opportunity to enhance ourselves through international partnerships. But for this approach to be truly successful, there needs to be business compatibility between the two parties. In other words, 1 + 1 can't just make 2, it needs to make 3 or 4. And at Nikko Asset Management, we have a long and successful history of engaging with international players, very differently from many other companies, and we've learned a lot about how to refine this engagement model. And with that experience in mind, I would like to advise that we should focus on 3 areas before any partnership is considered. And these are a strong foundation, effective bridging, and finally, making sure that you have the right partnership model. So let me talk about strong foundation first. But before I do so, the first bullet about strong foundation is really all about making sure that we have independence from the parent, highest global standards, and scalability. While the second bullet focuses on effective bridging that requires a flexible operational construct and definitely language solutions. While the final bullet raises the question of what is the best partnership model and what kind of construct works for you, with what kind of capital stake. And these must be considered. So on strong foundation, let me first highlight some of the most important aspects. First, independent corporate governance. Independent corporate governance is absolutely necessary at the board of director level. And we must have a board that is constructive, diverse, and open to new ideas. At Nikko Asset Management, we have a truly independent board. It's almost exclusively made up of independent directors. A quarter of the directors are female, and almost half are international. Without a doubt, that is necessary to lead to a progressive way forward. And we must have broad experience to make sure that we have multi-stakeholder engagement. But almost more importantly is having a very strong executive leadership. It must be highly skilled and diverse and have the full buy-in of the working level. And this is actually much harder than expected, because often there's a gap between the executive and the working level. And that makes it difficult to bring everyone over the line when creating new situations or wanting progressive change. But when it really works, it makes a big impact. In our case, we created a global executive committee that has all the key functions and regions represented, working closely together as one senior leadership team. We are 50% non-Japanese, 1/3 reside outside of Tokyo, and 1/5 are women. When I started, the executive committee was all male, all Japanese, all in Tokyo, and very small. So things are very different for us now. This broad representation means that the connectivity to the business is very strong. And any initiative that we may bring in will be much easier to roll out and get enthusiasm for, including bringing in a new joint venture partner from abroad. Another critical element is the global matrix construct, which I'm sure you are familiar with. In fact, global matrices are often in place at companies, but not in a way that is truly meaningful. Rolling this out seriously means that every employee should be reporting to a regional head as well as a functional head, and that both these heads have equal responsibility for compensation and for performance rating. Of course, this adds a layer of complexity and extra work, because two parties need to assess each employee. But it actually forces the removal of silos and creates strong global collaboration, and due to this connectivity, adoption of best global practices. For us, this was critical to set up on our path to growth. Finally, even if you have no silos, even if you have a great board, even if you have a very strong executive committee, still you need to be able to scale, or it will be very difficult to find a good partnership with an international firm. This means there needs to be connected distribution and investment capabilities embedded globally. As an example, in our case, we have distribution capability based in all these different regions, and they all come with full service requirements, also locally based. So, for example, let's look at Singapore. Here we have 172 employees, 56 are investment professionals, 27 are sales. But this effort comes with full client servicing, client reporting, materials creation, and so on, which means that team is deeply connected in the local market, but it's also connected to other offices and to the headquarters in a seamless way. This setup ensures that any investment capability coming from a potential new international partner can be scaled not only into all channels in Japan, but can be leveraged to distribution channel elsewhere too. In our case, having to build our own distribution came originally from the fact that we were independent, with no captive broker. This meant that we had to be worthy of all the distributors that we approached. We had to ensure that we were chosen because of our investment excellence, our client servicing, our product capability. And so we adopted a high global standard and became innovative. And what looked like a disadvantage actually became our advantage. So now briefly on effective bridging, a very important topic. Even with a strong foundation, it is important to find ways to bridge international firms effectively into Japan. In fact, effective collaboration between Japanese and international players can be a challenge for a variety of reasons, but these can be directly addressed and solved. We remove this challenge by focusing on 3 areas in particular: HR systems, digitalization, and language. On HR systems, well, in Japan, HR systems have historically been quite different from the rest of the industry, with job rotations, jobs for life, etc. We changed our HR system to a global norm a long time ago, and this has allowed fluidity between Japan and international and back, and also ensured talent retention. On digitalization, we are end-to-end digitalized in all our functions. This has been a game changer for us. For starters, it allowed us not to miss a beat during COVID. But more generally, it broadened access to talent. It brought in more women, who are often the main caretakers at home. It brought in others who required flexibility. For example, people with disabilities who find it hard to travel. Or simply people who didn't live in Tokyo, but had great talent. This digital connectivity also provided a very strong bilingual infrastructure to connect the business globally. And that leads me to language. And there are so many ways that language is addressed in Japan. Often, English is made a requirement. But that cuts out a huge, amazing talent pool in Japan. These are people who have chosen not to learn English. Maybe instead they focus their attention to coding or financial research or other skill sets. And we want access to this talent. And in fact, we need this talent to come into our industry. And we don't want language to be the reason why they don't come. So we simply removed it as a barrier by investing in AI and in simultaneous translation resources. And I use the term investing rather than cost. Re-AI, all our documentation is automatically translated by DeepL, which gives more than enough accuracy, 85%, which is working accuracy. We also use Copilot to communicate not just in the right language, but in the right tone. Re-simultaneous translation, this is used in all our meetings. We have invested in human simultaneous translation, which we bring in remotely, making this a simple and flexible approach. So how does it work? Well, it works because all our meetings are hybrid. And our meetings are hybrid because we allow work from home. This means that a translator can simply join any meeting flexibly, externally. And so there's no need for physical presence. By not making language an issue, but instead by focusing on removing it as a barrier through solutions, we have a globally connected firm and we have the best talent in place. So now to the partnership model. We believe that first, there needs to be an understanding of why you're looking to partner up from a business perspective. What are you trying to achieve with a potential JV with an international partner? What are the targets? What is the point? That will naturally lead to an understanding of the kind of capital stake that makes sense for you to take. Often, in our experience, a significant minority is actually a very good starting point, especially for companies where you're looking to bring in investment capability from the outside. A very small stake is often quite meaningless, and a majority stake is often unnecessary. But each company will have their own ideas. But we would advise first, focus on an integrated business opportunity and understanding what you can achieve with this partner and how, and then consider the stake. We actually have 6 partnerships with companies headquartered in China, in Malaysia, in Australia, in the UK, in US, and very recently in France. So let me give you 2 examples. We invested in a fantastic UK company called Osmosis. This focuses on sustainable investing. It is young, it is innovative, it has an edge, and it is in high demand. But before we took a stake, we assessed deeply what we were trying to achieve and whether we could create the right construct for them to ride on our back end to end, to create a true business opportunity. And we immediately saw that we could make it work. In fact, we won a significant mandate even before we took a stake. In other words, we knew that this would be a powerful integrated business relationship before we moved further. And we ended up taking a significant minority stake. And here is an older example from 2017, when we invested in an American disruptive innovation investment company called ARC. The situation was similar in that we first determined that this could be a strong business relationship. And we worked with them for a while first. And thereafter we decided, let's take a stake in this company. And again, we took a significant minority. Clearly, if you're looking for an international partner that gives you distribution access to the region, you should take a majority stake, or you won't have access to the distribution channel. But otherwise, when bringing in international investment capabilities, do consider a minority stake, a significant minority stake. Which brings me to my final point. We are lucky that we sit within Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Group. This is a large listed financial player with a clear focus on asset management. Not only have they created an asset management hub within the group, but they're working on infrastructure efficiencies that can be shared. And this creates a true multiplayer model sitting on an optimized platform. They've committed 1 trillion yen to build this into a true asset management powerhouse within the group. They have a long-term vision and resilience to push this through, with a globality in their thinking that will make all the difference. And I believe that this is what's required to ensure that we can all deliver here in Japan on Asset Management Nation. Now, as I end, I'm going to show a slide that is not directly linked to my speech, but as of September of next year, Nikko Asset Management will actually change its name. We will become Amova Asset Management. This is because the name Nikko Asset Management is actually not ours. We have been renting it from a historic relationship for many, many years, and it became time to create our own name. The new name will be Amova Asset Management, starting in September 2025. It was created through a very inclusive bottom-up process across the firm, with 135 employees over 15 months. And it truly reflects how our employees feel about us. AM is for asset management, but notice the word move in Amova. It's reflected in our ambitions to be forward-looking, and notice the word Innova embedded, which means innovation. And again, an attribute we're proud of. Ultimately, what matters is how a name is generated, maybe not the name itself. But please recognize us as Amova from September 2025. So my final comments. I know that many foreign firms are considering entering Japan. And my view is that working closely with Japanese firms, especially those that can provide effective bridging into Japan, is a great way forward and is a real option to consider. However, regardless of the chosen path of entry, the Japanese market offers an extraordinary opportunity. This is a truly momentous moment for Japan, especially in asset management, as we are shifting to competitive global standards while keeping our immensely high work ethic, which is so typical of Japan. And that in itself will create a powerful combination. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luce. Thank you for your presentation.